So welcome everybody to the most anticipated event of the year, the Enactus Virtual National Competition. Well, virtual again this year, unfortunately, um, but I'm sure that shouldn't have an effect on the impact that we're trying to make here. So joining us today, we have Tshego and Kwazini, and they'll be running us through a panel discussion on the psychology of entrepreneurship. I am Rochelle Naidu. I'm actually an alumni from UKZN, where I met Kwazini as well. And if I'm not mistaken, Tshego, you are from the University of Limpopo.
Correct.
Okay. So technically we rivalries, but and you're outnumbered because Kwazini and I are from the same team. So sorry about that. But yeah, I'm going to introduce Kwazini a bit because I have worked with him before, and then I'm going to allow Tshego, you can introduce yourself and then you guys can sort of take it from there.
Okay.
Okay, so Kwazini, nice to see you after some time, I must say. So Kwazini and I go way back. We met at Enactus UKZN and we served some time together. And somehow over the years and through other initiatives and through Enactus, we still kept this network going, and it's just stronger now than ever. So I think the lesson we all can learn here is that this is really a good platform to network. So I hope all of you guys have already gone onto LinkedIn and like connected to Kwazini and Tshego, and yeah, do stay connected. So let's meet Kwazini. He's an entrepreneur, a strategist, and a facilitator. He is a transformational speaker from Durban, KwaZulu-Natal, and he's super passionate about making a difference in the world. Having represented South Africa and Africa throughout the world on prestigious global business and leadership platforms, Kwazini has gathered valuable insights for making a sustainable impact in our world. Over the years, he has scooped various awards, namely the Africa Idea Trophy and the Unilever Future Leaders League, London, UK. And he became a One Young World Ambassador upon his return from delegation in the Netherlands. He has also founded and held executive positions in youth development initiatives, unlocking socioeconomic opportunities to help millennials maximize their potential. His equity business interests includes Kulisha Group, a business development company that focuses on transformation, TLT, Tomorrow's Leaders in Training, another project that I actually got to work with Kwazini on, which is a leadership development company organization, and Take a Bite Biscuits, a producer and supplier of assorted biscuits. So that's Kwazini. And let's meet Tshego now.
Wow. So how do I introduce myself after such an introduction?
Maybe let's start with who you are, where did you study, where are you from, your passions. Yeah, just tell us more about you. Apart from the fact that you're from Enactus University of Limpopo, and yeah, so you have to really sell me now because it's strong.
Okay. So before I tell you about myself, let me share a story of how my Enactus journey. So I am Chofajo Naomi Ntavani. I'm all the way from Limpopo, currently residing in Pretoria. And I've studied at the University of Limpopo doing business management. And yeah, currently in an automotive industry doing market research. So Enactus, I joined Enactus in 2011. Wait, 2012. So I started my university in 2011, then 2012 I joined Enactus, and then under the leadership of Mr. Mashaba, and we quite had some great memories, of course, in terms of changing the community around us. So, working with projects that are aimed at solving problems that would actually change the lives of the community. So that was quite interesting for me, and that's where I got intrigued in terms of now being into social entrepreneurship more. So I'm currently in Pretoria and doing market research in an automotive industry, loving what I do. And I also do a lot of social entrepreneurship activities, or rather empowerment activities. So I'm part of quite a couple of empowerment programs that based on empowering young people and women, of course, in terms of balancing the gender equity and everything else, diversity, and trying to push in order for us to get ahead in corporate world, in entrepreneurship, and everything in South Africa. So yeah, that's basically who I am. Let me leave it here.
Wow, that's good. That's so cool. It's good to meet you, Tshego.
Good to meet
Um,
you too.
okay, so everyone, we're here today for the panel discussion, the psychology of entrepreneurship, and I'm going to leave the floor to Kwazini and Tshego to take it away now. Enjoy.
Thank you. Do you want to go first, question?
Ladies first, I'm a gentleman by nature. Something that something that Rachel forgot to mention.
Yes, no, definitely chivalry is still alive in Kwazini Zulu. I stand testament to that.
Okay, so in terms of the topic today, we're discussing psychology in entrepreneurship. So in terms of my landscape on this topic, I've actually unpacked the two. Have psychology on the side and also have entrepreneurship on the side. And what I've discovered is what psychology is in terms of understanding human behavior and the characteristics of people or a group of people. And then in terms of now entrepreneur or entrepreneurship, there's now an activity of setting up a business or businesses in taking into consideration the risks that come with it and also making profit, of course. The aim of a business is making profit, right? So in that space, for me, an activity in entrepreneurship, I see it as a cycle of input, process, and output. So in your input phase, this is where you have like your resources, your materials, you have your funds, everything else that needs to be processed in your process stage in order to get your final output, which will be either your product or service and also the profit that you need to get out of it. So from my end, I will sit more on the traits that actually build these people in terms of having to be a successful entrepreneur. In order for you to have a move from a phase of an input to processing stage, where you combine everything and then you get your end result, which is your product service, and then also your profit that you are aiming to do it in the business. So I'll just dwell on the traits that actually build what an entrepreneur is. So normally we'll have like those questions in terms of, okay, what does it make to be an entrepreneur, right? Would have, is it charisma that makes one to be a successful entrepreneur? Is it the extrovert personality that makes one to become an entrepreneur? Um, but there are certain things that could build a person to becoming an entrepreneur. I let me make this disclaimer before. I'm sitting in a room where the lights are automatic, so anything can happen. If you see a dark space, I'll just have to wave so that it can sense that I'm here. So please excuse me if that happens. So in terms of going, as I was saying, in terms of the traits that builds one to become a successful entrepreneur, there are quite a few, right? Where we would see that, okay, this person or successful entrepreneurs, what is it that you need to get there? Speaking from an end of seeing the projects that we have done in Enactus, sitting from an end of seeing the people that I engage with who are entrepreneurs in their own spaces. What do they do? What is it that actually makes one to become a successful entrepreneur? So the first thing that I've actually realized was that you need to be in a space where you have a work ethic. So excellence and integrity. You know, in the business, or rather, this is now corporate versus business. In a corporate, you be that person who has to be there early and leave late. So in entrepreneurship, you actually take that with you, where you become or everything, right? Then you need to make sure that you put in your work ethic, to be excellent. Everything that you do, from your working hours, from your pitch, from your to your funds, to everything, you need to make sure that you put excellence. This is now hard work. You need to make sure that you have your excellence and integrity in ensuring that your company is successful, or you become a successful entrepreneur. Now that you have that, which drives you, the business to get to the next step, or drives the business to run in terms of what you put in your work, a workload, your work amount, your work effort, then you need to be passionate. So I normally hear spaces where you need to love what you do, right? Or you need to be in a space where you do what you love in order for you to have wake up in the morning with energy and ensure that you get this thing done. So when you take work ethic, it actually runs or keeps the business to become strong, right? However, in terms of passion, you have to feel motivated. What actually drives you every single day, which is hard work. So, what actually drives you to get up and ensure that this idea that I have, this beautiful vision that I have, it needs to come out alive and eventually become a product or a service that I can render to people. And in that space, you need to ensure that you have remember now, this is a vision that is only seen by you. Unfortunately, at that first stage, you have to now make sure that it gets to be seen. But the drive of you getting there to that vision, it needs to ensure actually keep you moving. So this can be in a form of having a plan where you can actually track yourself in terms of, are you getting there? Who doesn't love progress? When you see progress, you get motivated daily. You get on the drive. So from this space, I normally look at performance measure type of attributes, where you look at where you've been and where you are today. And trust me, every single day there's a progress. And if you look at those things, then they drive you to get to the next stage. So that's where now your passion needs to drive you. It's like when you have a plan, a passion, and then it's derived to being a vision, and then you have plans to that will take you to that space of a vision or passion. Then that motivates you daily to get up. And then you need to also have the level of creativity, um, in order for you to get to win in the space. So what I've actually seen is consumers change every now and then. Competition is also changing every now and then. Considering the fact that we are in a space of a pandemic where things have changed, where life has actually turned almost like 360 degrees. We are now forced to be creative, to come up with ways of ensuring that we still get to that end result, but in a new way. So you need to consistently and continuously be creative in order for you to grasp the right people. So in terms of consumer changes, so here we're talking about person. It can be an environment that can impact people to change. This can be in a form of income. It can be anything. Whatever that is trending in South Africa can actually drive your consumers to now look at that. So you need to always be creative and ensure that you come up with ways on improving your products and ensuring that you still meet the end need of the consumer, right? Because your consumer is actually the person who's going to make profit for you at the end of the day. So in that space, then you require to be agile. So in the space you need to be creative. While things are moving fast, while we are forced to be in a space that's changing, you also need to change. You need to be agile. You've got no choice but to adapt to new ways of doing things like we are doing now. So as an entrepreneur, you need to be in that space. And then it links to the last one, which is being able to learn. So as an entrepreneur, you need to always learn. You have to take off the cap of I know it all, but look at the fact that you need to learn, right? So when you're a self-starter, for example, or when your business is starting, you are in a space of having to learn to become um, an accountant. You have to become a marketer. You have to become production if you're doing production, a manufacturing business. All those type of departments, you need to learn each and every one of them. And with learning that, the nice thing about it is you become um, dangerous enough to know about your business, that no one can actually come and try to do anything. You'll see all the red flags from afar because you've actually known how you need to sell your product. You know what needs to be done in order for you to balance your sheets. You know how in terms of communicating with your consumers. So you will be in a space where you know how, or you dangerously know enough about your business that no one can do anything to you. So in that space, you learn each and every department. You become everything, and you need to learn, continuously improving up until it's up and running and you're able to get all these things together in one space. So in that, I'll just wrap it up to say, being an entrepreneur, you need to be, especially in the times that we live in, you are required to just be agile in order for you to go move with the times. I cannot believe we are here on Zoom. We are communicating. Can you imagine the person who started Zoom? And 3 years back, we were on Skype and so forth. So in that respect, you need to be able to go with the times and be agile in order for you not to fall off and to lose your track. So yeah, I'll leave it up to Kwazini to take in or make input, and then we can have a further discussion in terms of his experiences as well.
Thank you so much, Tshego, for that insight and that wonderful intro around the psychology of entrepreneurship. And it struck me differently because when I started thinking about this topic, I thought to myself, what an interesting conversation we're going to have here on an Enactus platform, where we really just talk about the psychology of entrepreneurship. Because naturally, the normal person would look at psychology and entrepreneurship and think, what in the world, or what kind of world can these two different subject matters meet, and what association do they have with each other? And so I loved how you just separated psychology and entrepreneurship, where psychology is talking about input, process, and output. And whereas when I started thinking about it, I looked at how entrepreneurship is all about identifying a problem or a need within a set group of people, coming up with a solution to best meet or service that need or solve that problem in the form of a product or service. And then ultimately just creating value from that, capturing that value, and being able to communicate that value to that same group of people in a creative way. So much so that they see the value, it's clearly demonstrated, and they actually pay money for this product or service that you're offering. Whereas when we talk about psychology, as you put it, it's simply human behavior. But moreover, it's human behavior and the development of people towards a place of achieving a good sense of well-being, which can be mental, it can be physical, it can be emotional, but anything that has to do with well-being. And the bridge between these two sort of concepts is really just one thing: it's people, because everything is about people. Think about it. If there are no people, then for whom do our products and services exist for? If there are no people, whose problems are we solving? If there are no people in the equation, it just leaves such a void that cannot be filled by anything. So it's all about people. So we can have the most amazing technologies and solutions and products and services, but the moment we leave out the human element, then we're in for a big trouble when we look at that. So John Maxwell, I think he put it perfectly when he spoke about how the most valuable asset in any organization is in fact the people that are in that organization. So the same applies to business, and the same applies to society, really. The true value of society is the people. And really, all these products and services are to benefit or improve people's lives. So that human element becomes such a central core element. And in case for anybody else who's watching, and in case you've missed the light bulb moment, I'll help you out in just a bit. It's all about people. So people are at the center of everything, right? And it's important to understand in business or entrepreneurship that the deeper you're able to connect with people, is the easier it will be to influence them. So this is just a typical leadership 101 principle, that leadership is influence. So the deeper you are able to connect with people, the deeper you're able to influence them. That's why companies have spent billions and billions of rands on market research, consumer behavior, understanding people, and really how best to relate best with people. And that's why all these brands have now become relatable to people. It's ridiculous how much of effort goes behind this psychology or this idea of connecting with people. And based on that universal principle, in business, you see this best. Some people call it CRM, customer relationship management. A buddy mentor of mine on another platform where we are speaking, he introduced a concept called relationship marketing. And this blew my way because it encapsulated this entire thought of psychology and consumer behavior. And an important aspect of CRM, which is customer relationship management, is in fact customer behavior or consumer behavior. During my time at Unilever, when I worked at Unilever for quite some time, so I worked a lot with Unilever local level, Africa level, global level, and we worked on the company's biggest brands in terms of bringing about solutions and business problems that they encountered at the time. This was years ago. And one of the things that blew my mind about the company was I realized how much of effort those guys put into actually understanding their target market. It's insane. For example, with a brand like Shield, they would tell you who their target audience is, their age, they'll tell you how they think, what they wear, they'll tell you even what time of the day, what activity they're doing when. And it blew my mind. And then I started understanding this power of consumer behavior and how it's important as an entrepreneur or in business to best manage your relationship with your customers, because that becomes a key element of anything that you do. And as the world becomes more abstract, we see that the world is changing rapidly. The things that were normal to us 3 years ago have sort of become extinct. We have industries that have become extinct for the first time in history. So as this world as we know it becomes more abstract, there will be a deeper need for human connection, a deeper desire for human connection. And it's only brands or products and businesses that do this well that will really, really succeed in a time that we're doing. And it reminds me about adaptability and being adaptive, one of the traits that you mentioned in terms of being agile as an entrepreneur. So it's important to be able to respond to people and to connect to people's needs. And I love how the Enactus program is really just centered around this notion of social entrepreneurship, because the heart of it is people, the heart of it are social issues. And there's something that we used to do. I'm sure it's still a standard practice in the program today, where before you carry out a project or design a project or implement a project, we do something called a needs analysis, where you typically go out into a community and you do a needs analysis. I remember our times in the program where we used to go on site visits and really just spend time with that group of people. Other times during overnight stays, sleeping on mats or imakantini, sharing amakwinya, fat cooks, and just sharing some fries or some bread. And those were some of our most memorable moments as a team. really just connecting with people. And you'd find that in those moments, we develop the most amazing solutions because of the depth of understanding and connecting with the people that are in that particular community, which is quite awesome. So all of this is inculcated already in the Enactus program, which is quite excellent. So addressing the human need. So that's one aspect of the psychology of entrepreneurship. But here's the second aspect. And the second aspect is, guess what? You, us, you and I, we're also people. It's just that we are people that are operating within the context of a business. And that's important. It's important understanding yourself as an entrepreneur or your own business and the science in which it operates and its own psychology, because from that place, you service the needs of customers. There's an interesting article or rather survey report from Deloitte that I came across just recently, Tshego. It's their latest, I think it's a global survey, global 2021 survey, where they spend a large amount of time just researching what millennials and Generation Z are busy with and what are they thinking and what are they facing. Shockingly enough, the stats say that at least 40% of all millennials and all Generation Zs felt that their current employers were not taking care of their psychological and mental well-being. They believe that the employers are doing a terrible job in taking care of their mental state. Now, if that is the case for a normal employee, a normal employer-employee relationship, I don't even want to know what the stats are behind entrepreneurs and how they and the pressure and stress that they're facing, particularly in a time like this. It's enough. It's enough being in an uncertain environment where you are starting a business, you're doing something that's never been done before. There's no manual, there's no formula for this thing, and you're just thrown in the deep end like that, where the one true question that you need to answer as a startup business or as an entrepreneur is, how do I build a sustainable organization in the shortest amount of time and with limited resources? Now that idea alone is enough to cause sleepless nights. How much more when you're in an evolving world where you need to understand your customers and consumer behavior is changing. But if you remain on the ground and rooted and engaged with customers and understand their needs, you're able to respond to them a bit better. So I just want to share a couple of thoughts before I hand over back to Rochelle around this idea of the psychology of entrepreneurship. The first thought is, if you're considering entrepreneurship as a career and you really want to give it a go, one of the most fundamental questions that I've learned personally through my experience and journey in business, apart from looking at your business model and the amazing, the next Fortune 500 concept that you have, or the next best thing since sliced bread, is really just one question at the core of it is, how great is your capacity to be able to sustain prolonged periods of stress and pressure? And I know it's a strange question to ask. A lot of people would ask about the business model first, the idea. But really, what I found is that entrepreneurship is such a roller coaster that the one real question that you need to ask is, how great is your capacity to sustain prolonged periods of stress and pressure? Because and I've seen this, I've seen that entrepreneurship is hard, it's extremely difficult. And even through our business, Rochelle mentioned that we have a manufacturing and distribution business that deals with a biscuit product. 2019 was by far my hardest year. Literally every day, I'd leave home 6 a.m. and return midnight or 1 a.m. every single day for the entire year. And it was ridiculous because my family didn't even know who I was anymore. But it was difficult because we faced a lot of problems. Set up a new business, there are different classes of problems at every level that you go in building your business. But the second thought really is no business organization can grow beyond the capacity of its leader. Now, this places it just changes the ball game around towards us, you and I as the entrepreneur, because now it places the responsibility of development on you as a business owner. So not only must you keep track of the growth of your business, the growth of your clientele, what your customers needs, the needs of your business, but now you need to keep track of your own personal development, because now you're leading people. And there's a very close lady friend of mine who always says to me, the world requires your best. If you're not at your best, how can you give us your best? So I just want to share that thought with you, that it's very important for you to continuously grow as an individual. I mean, Tshego already mentioned the importance of learning, continuous learning. And so you need to be the guy or the one person that is constantly changing, constantly improving, constantly learning better than everybody else on your team, better than your customers, better than any business business venture that you're involved in, which is really quite interesting though. And then the third and final thought on my end is the growth of any business or entrepreneurship journey depends on the amount of problems that you solve, the amount of obstacles that you overcome. Now, this presents a different challenge to the traditional person. That challenge is failure. How people see failure as just an end. For an entrepreneur, psychologically, the idea of failure excites you because you understand one thing and one thing only. And that one thing is every moment of failure takes you one step closer to success. So if you increase your failure rate, then ultimately you increase your success rate. And that's what we need to understand as entrepreneurs or business people or aspiring entrepreneurs, that failure is a necessary condition to success. I can bet R1 million, if only I had R1 million in my pocket, I can bet R1 million right now that no successful person in any sphere, in any sector, in whether it be corporate, civil society, business, entrepreneurship, no one person has ever succeeded without their own portfolio of failures. So the success and growth of your business or your journey or your entrepreneurial venture is directly proportional to the amount of obstacles you can overcome and challenges and problems that you solve. So I just wanted to share those quick 3 thoughts around psychology of entrepreneurship, because I know that Tshego has already covered some of the traits that are important for an entrepreneur, such as creativity, being agile, be adaptable, being responsive. I just wanted to share those quick 3 thoughts, Rochelle.
Very interesting thoughts. Had to think about them slowly and just process them. Again, going back to the input and processing and the output, it's like relevant in like everything we do here. So there are a couple of comments and questions in the chat. Just one comment, I think from Pelonomi. She says, thank you guys so much for this. I'm really grasping. I'm also blown away at how other companies know their consumers or market to that depth. And then to the questions. Okay, let's start with Danny. So Danny, it says UL next to your name, so I'm assuming you're from the University of Limpopo. Damn it, Kwazini, we outnumbered again. So Danny says, thank you so much for sharing your insight on entrepreneurship, Tshego, a spirit of a turfy. Not sure what that means. Is that like an inside University of Limpopo term, turfy, or not too sure? Yeah, so young young entrepreneurs in our current generation step into the world of entrepreneurship, but eventually find it so hard to continue learning and overcoming the challenge they face every now and then. What would be your advice to a young entrepreneur out there who is on the verge of giving up and throwing it all off? Tshego, I think that one's for you.
Okay, so why give up? As Kwesi has already mentioned, you have to fail to get to the next step. So you can't give up. So all you need to do is go back to the structure of, as he mentioned, your customer. So if I've noticed most small businesses, they do not go in the route of understanding who your customer really is and what they do. And then now you can have a product currently, right? You can have a product, but then you need to know the person that you are giving that end product to. So you need to understand, is this product still um, serving what it was serving? Because as we mentioned, people change, people evolve. So with the evolution and the change in consumer behaviors, you need to still try to understand, is this person still my target market? So if they are not, what is it that I can do to my product? Probably change it or trim it or do whatever in order for me to still fulfill the customer's need. Remember, your end person is your customer. And if they are not fulfilled, then you cannot sell that product to this person. So it's just going back to revising your product or your service that you're providing and understand the person that you are giving that service to or the product to. So you cannot give up. You can never give up in entrepreneurship. You need that spirit to drive you all the way. You cannot give up. Don't give up. Just take it easy and try to understand who your customer is.
Can I just add something there quickly? I'm just drawing from what you just said, Tshego. You know, the spirit of giving up, it's reminding me of something that we learned. Believe it or not, I'm a psychology graduate, by the way. Who would have thought?
I'm
So in my
still
undergrad,
processing that. Yeah.
so fortunately, I learned some things that are helpful in my journey from those textbooks from Oxford. There's a principle or concept in child psychology that I learned about during my undergrad, and that principle is simply, it was around childhood development, just the psychology of how a child develops. It says that in order for any child to develop and grow, they need an obstacle or a challenge to be in front of them, because that challenge or obstacle acts as a stimulus to cause their inherent ability to perform that function to kick in. For example, a baby requires a challenge of wanting to get a toy that's on the other side of the room before it can start wanting to reach out. So the moment that obstacle is presented, naturally it kicks in. It causes that inherent ability, that creativity, or that ability that a child possesses to walk. And then a child doesn't take one step and fall and then says, that's it, guys. I've tried my best. I've done all that I could. Now I'm giving up. So the same thing with entrepreneurship. Being presented with obstacles and challenges is a perfect opportunity to cause creativity and innovation and pivoting to just kick in and do it differently. So go back to the drawing board, figure it out until you learn how to do it. And the best place to start is, why are you facing the challenge that you're facing? And I think the power of the why will lead you to the right direction. So you just keep iterating. So you launch a solution, you try whatever you're doing, try it out. If it doesn't work, back to the drawing board, learn, and read a book called The Lean Startup by Eric Ries. It's super helpful. It speaks about getting validated learning, which is really, really quite important. So it's all about learning, all about learning. Input, process, output, learning.
Thank you.
until it sticks.
Thank you. Those are quite inspiring answers. There's an interesting question here from Mopo. He says, do you think the school system, societal background, and knowledge about entrepreneurship in our societies allow individuals to psychologically self-actualize before having the real self-actualization? I'm going to repeat that. Do you think that the school system, societal background, and knowledge about entrepreneurs or entrepreneurship in our society allows individuals to psychologically self-actualize before having the real self-actualization? if that makes sense. It kind of does.
I will respond simply and say, no, it doesn't. And I'll tell you why. I have my own bone to pick with education and the education system in Africa, but particularly in our country, right? But that's a different discussion. I'll tell you why. It's because in education, there's a blind spot where, and we know this already, and that's why we're so grateful for programs like Enactus that are able to support or meet the need that is not fulfilled by the classroom context. And that is that the idea of education happens in the classroom. And the reality is that it doesn't. It may start there, but education is a lifelong journey, much like entrepreneurship and self-actualization. So you self-actualize because of a series of experiences that you go through. And these experiences, they need to be practical and experiential in nature. So if you remove the experiential aspect and you remove the practical application, going to communities, seeing problems, designing solutions, packaging projects, implementing them, working in teams, developing all these soft skills, it is almost impossible for you to self-actualize. And largely because in our communities and in our schooling system and in our social environment, this idea of entrepreneurship is quite foreign. So for the longest time, it's been something that's been just so foreign to us, and it's just so abstract. Again, I keep using this word abstract, so far-fetched from us, that it's only now that it's catching popularity. But again, it's populism. But people just need to get into good grips with what it actually means. And I think that experiential learning and outside of the classroom and actually doing something will give you self-actualization. Definitely not in the classroom.
Yeah, true. No, so to add on Kwazini is saying, the funny thing, it's actually what it happens in life, right? So you can read as much, and in reading all those things, you don't really get to experience who you are. It's only when you interact with people, when you do the act, when you are in that space, the process, as you mentioned, how the process actually it grooms you, it takes out who you are. So in the experience of entrepreneurship, where you are now getting into the fold of giving that whatever that you're giving to the people, when you are in a space of action, like Enactus says, in a space of action, that's where you actually get the triggers of who you are. That's where you actually now meet your real self. When people piss you off in certain ways and you're like, is this me? So you get to understand yourself in experience and in doing, not really in classroom. I don't think I've also done entrepreneurship, and I've never been in a space where we unpack who you are as a person, apart from being an entrepreneur. It's just giving you an outline in terms of what an entrepreneur can be, what it is. But you yourself in that journey, you then discover who you are. So it's in experience.
Okay. So the next question we have is from Fusi. He says, what advice would you give a young entrepreneur who doesn't have any backup money in this pandemic? How to sustain it and growing as a business without any financial stability? How do you overcome that? And then, like, further to that, can you elaborate on the risks of failure in a business for it to be successful?
Sorry, Rachel, can you just repeat that first bit of the question?
Sure. So what advice would you give a young entrepreneur who doesn't have any backup money in this pandemic? How to sustain it, growing as a business without any financial stability, and how to overcome that?
That's that's a difficult question. It's a difficult question because what do you tell an entrepreneur? It goes back to that question that we were asking: how do you build a sustainable business with a limited amount of time and limited resources? Because the idea is that if you don't do that within that time, then there's a risk of dying and being out of business. I mean, our biscuit business, we almost went out of business during COVID. We had to pivot our model. Thank God that we stumbled on a different solution, and then the entire a different industry opened up to us, which is the fuel station industry, and we started supplying outlets because the direct sales aspect of things was no longer possible. I think the advice that I would give, honestly put, because in our entrepreneurial journey, nobody tells us about the importance of setting up reserves, nor do we have the luxury of enough capital to set up reserves for trying times. My view, or what we did in our business, is we trimmed the scale of our operation, and we cut our cost to be so minimal, and really we went back to basics in our business. So we simply asked the question: how do we continue servicing our customers and our client base with the least amount of effort and resources? From that place we started, even if it meant we did away with all the glamorous things, and we just go back to basics. There's this idea that you cannot start a business without capital. And a buddy mentor of mine just flipped it on its head. He said to me, 90% the idea and 10% the capital. And that idea and that narrative, or that point, it's all about, if you work enough on your idea, your solution, your product, or your service, if you invest enough in it, then it would attract its own resources to be able to sustain its own operations. And that's the advice that I'd give.
I actually like your 90-10 rule, where I would also say, I'm speaking from, I'm not an entrepreneur, so I can't actually say, okay, this is what you should do. But looking at how it can be done in reality is, you get your idea right and straight enough for you to can convince someone. So I'm not sure if there is a quick fix to get it done now and start it and get the right people. But normally what you do, you can at first need to network with people. Try to network with people, and wherever you go, you sell your idea. Somehow it will reach the right person who can invest. Remember, if what Kwasi said is, if it's the idea, you've invested so much in your idea that it attracts the right resources. This is where it comes to. You can attract your investor just by sharing, or in terms of, this is what I've been doing. And if you got it right, and you are brave enough to get into someone else who some people have money, but they do not know how to start businesses. So you can use that as also an opportunity for you to say, oh, you know what, I've got this idea, and then this is what you can do. You can invest in my idea, then this is a share that you're going to get, because it's not going to be for free. So you have to also be willing to compromise in that respect, that I've got this idea, and if you can invest, this is what amount percentage of share that you can get. So yeah, it's a bit tricky for one to answer, but you can try out that.
Another quick comment, sorry, Rochelle, I know that we are short on time. Another quick comment is, it goes back to this idea of relationship, because it's people. Your customers are people. Remember that your suppliers are also people. They are people that can relate to you. So if you have a strong enough relationship with all of your suppliers and all the people that are involved in the operation of your business, and you have a solid relationship, then you'll still be able to meet each other halfway. I mean, even if it means you're receiving stock and you're only paying it a week later after you sold some of that stock and made some of your margin. I'm just using a loose example. But how if you have a good relationship with even suppliers, they'd be willing to give you some grace. So invest in relationship management with everyone in your value chain.
Interesting. Okay, we are short of time, but I for one can listen to you guys speak on and on about this. There's like so much learning going on here. So I'm gonna do one more question. Tshego, this one specifically for you, from Reginald. He says, look at our current generation, which psychologically is different from the previous one. Do you think the skills we are gaining will remain relevant in the next 5 years, or will they be redundant, and why?
What are the skills there? So it's actually the skills, I would say, looking at my point, or looking at my space, I'm actually gathering the skills that I know in future will be helpful or will be needed. So I'm not sure what skills he or she is talking about or coming from, but I'll say they are relevant in terms of we are driven by technology now, which will be where we need to be in the next coming years. So, for example, if you are in a space where you see that this, say, for example, in a corporate world, this career might be in a space of being replaced by a robot or being replaced by something technological. What is it that I need to learn in order for me to ensure that I'm still relevant to the company, or I'm still relevant to provide the service and the product to these people? So in a business now, it's a space of offering things online. People would move to doing things online. People would move to doing money transfers online, like your Momo from MTN. This is where life would be. So what is it that you as a business person are doing in order for you to get there? So the skills, they differ. It just depends on where are you looking at. Is it now doing coding in your space? Is it now doing technological advanced things? Is it now improving organizations in terms of dashboards, in terms of innovation, like trying to convert whatever that we are doing now and bringing it in a more effective? This is what we're looking at, effective ways of doing things. Yeah, so I'm not sure if what skills he or she is referring to. If only that was outlined, I'll be able to say this is where they would be in the next coming years. But technology is here, it's going to take things that would be it will replace some people, but we need to be aware of what level of technology can be be included in the organization. For example, with automotives, we do use robots, but there's a level that they cannot go as far as inputting wires into the cars. So what is it that the skills that one requires in order for you to still be relevant in the next coming years would be a bit of some sort of a research. But I'd say, yeah, things like coding would still be relevant because you still need to be in a space of providing us with the Zoom service. You still need to provide us with your apps, your Uber Eats, and all those type of things. So yeah, that's where I'll end it. I
There's just
hope it
one more.
answers the
There's one
question.
more question, and it does touch on technology.
Mhm.
Maybe you guys, either of you, can answer this. It says, what impact do you think the era or the age of AI would have on entrepreneurship in South Africa in the future? Since we can all see that we're sort of lacking in technology. Yes, we are learning about it, but are we able to cope and adapt even though we are learning?
Another
Okay, you both of you guys are laughing, or like your reaction. I see you both have something to say here. So, Tshego, I'm gonna allow you to go first, and then Kwazini, you can go straight after, and we can close off after that. So, Tshego, take it away.
So as we've mentioned that you need to be agile, right? So you've got to cope. You don't have a choice. So technology is here, guys. It's here and it's going to still remain something that's continuously changing. That's where the world is moving. So as an entrepreneur, you need to be able to acquire knowledge that is relevant to your business or your whatever that you're offering. And then how do you then, because technology is vast, right? You can't just put everything that's out there that's technological and then implement it in your business. What is it that you are going to do in order for you that requires technology, or that you're going to do to improve your business that requires technology? It's simple things like, as mentioned, to save online service deliveries. It's simple things like you see your that McDonald's thing that it's the what do we call it? The switchboard that's in McDonald's. It's those things that are actually going to be in a space of replacing human beings, right? So in the future, you just need to know what is it that's going to be relevant to you and your business that you need to adapt. But all you got to do is do more research and keep on learning in terms of how do you improve your organization at which level of technology do you improve your organization? Because if you can come in.
Yeah, no, I'm just laughing because uh, on the one front, technology is amazing, but on the other front, there's a whole lot of negatives, but we can't run away from it. I mean, artificial intelligence, it's something that's already there. So you can't change it, you can't undo it. So I love what you said, Tshego, about how you need to find out what skills will you require, what technological skills and competencies will you require in your field or your industry or your business, and then start to learn and adapt to that. But the second thing is, artificial intelligence is scary to most people, because it's putting people out of work. It's making people irrelevant. There's a massive threat on the labor market for people that are not skilled. But on the other front of it, there's something that robots can never do better than you and I, and that is being creative. They can be more efficient than us, Mark might and do the jobs that we're doing 1,000 times more efficient than us because they've been programmed. But the value of the human element is our creativity, our ability to innovate and think outside of the box, because we don't have any wires that are running through our heads that are limiting our learning and capabilities. So if you invest on some of the softer skill, more creative skills, creative competencies, that's what I'll call them. So things like critical thinking, problem solving, emotional intelligence, creativity, innovation, adaptability. So increase that skill base and invest in that a lot. And by doing that, we will stay relevant in this generation, even in generations to come. So guys, I know that we speak about entrepreneurship, but we are all entrepreneurs here. You may be working for an employer, but you can be an entrepreneurial employee, which means that you possess all these things, all these traits that we mentioned during our time together, and really just function in that company as an entrepreneur. So all these skills, these soft skills and creative competencies, they'll be vital for us to be able to adapt and to take advantage of technology, because it shouldn't be it is a threat in some instances, but we can surely take advantage of it.
Agree. I myself come from a very technological background. I do agree with both of your views on this. But yeah, and as much as you're an entrepreneur and employee, you can be both of those things. So thank you guys so much for this really engaging conversation today. I certainly have learned a lot. Somehow with all of my Enactus friends, whenever I see them after some time, I'm always still learning from them. It's so weird, but that's what keeps me drawn to this network, I guess. There are quite a lot of other questions that didn't get answered, so we do apologize for that. We are out of time, but I do imagine that Tshego and Kwazini would be happy if you do reach out on social media. I'm sure they will be happy to answer those questions for you. So thank you everybody for being here today. And I would hope, or we hope as Enactus students, that you guys do engage in the other conversations that are taking part this week, and good luck to all the teams. I did see in the chat someone said Viva UL, so Viva UKZN.
Guys, we can't even debate about it. UKZN is taking it again this year. So let's just set the record straight.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, you guys are good. But Viva UL. Viva UL. Thank you.
Okay,
thank you guys.
Cool. Thanks everybody. Have a good day. Be safe.
Thank
and
you.
Good luck.
Have a lovely day further.